I'm Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Angela.
We are the Ink Mages. Join us as we discuss all things fantasy, world building, storycraft, myths and legends, and of course, our own imaginative stories.
Welcome to the Ink Mages podcast. We're so excited you've joined us today. We are going to be talking about Kickstarter. Not sure if any of you are familiar with it, but if you are an indie author and considering doing a campaign and launching your book, you want to hear what Angela has to say about Kickstarter. So, Angela, tell us what Kickstarter is and how authors can use it to their advantage.
Well, I just recently started using Kickstarter for the first time, and I'll get into that story a little bit and how I've arrived at learning all of the wonderful things that I have now learned about Kickstarter. But first of all, Kickstarter is a platform where you can develop a campaign where people actually get to come and back your project. And I think this is different than a lot of like GoFundMe's where you're just trying to raise money or funds. This is something where your fans or people who want to see a book come to life actually get to come and support you, and they get rewards, and they get to be the first people to read your book, to see your book, to have it come forth. And so it's really amazing. What's even more amazing about that is not just friends and family. Kickstarter is a huge platform for readers who want to see their favorite projects get completed. And this is a huge community that's developing around fiction authors in particular. This is a place where a lot of readers and authors are coming to actually see what's new and what they want to back so that they can see certain things that they would like to have out in the world released. So it's really, really a neat thing for authors, especially indie authors, to begin to get into. But what I have discovered is there are right ways to develop your Kickstarter campaign, and there are wrong ways. It is not something you can just easily just slap up there and hope that the magic happens. You really do need to know what you're doing when developing one. It's not hard, but it is a little time consuming, and there is hard work involved in it and some thought. So that's kind of what Kickstarter is. And for me, I wanted to start Kickstarter because I in particular wanted to start getting the audio series done for my trilogy. And I know there are a lot of budget-friendly ways to get audiobooks done, but I really had a passion to see my books read in the Welsh accent, which is a strong theme in my books. This is, the ancient world of 500 AD where the Welsh presence was more prominent. And I just kind of felt like it honored the stories, it honored the books, it honors the Welsh history that I'm highlighting in my fantasy books. And so I wanted a Welsh voice actor, and that came with a high price tag. So that meant that I had to do something else because I couldn't afford it myself.
He sounds amazing. So yeah. The sample, I'm like, yeah, I would have melted too. And like must have. I wouldn't want to hear anybody else because he sounds fabulous and perfect for your story. So,
yes.
And I am not too familiar with Kickstarter, so I am definitely excited to hear everything that you're going to share and what you've learned. I have only supported another author on Kickstarter, so I've seen like the templates, I've seen the rewards and the tiers, and just at a glance, it looked like a lot of work. And I mean, it paid off. This author, we had her on our podcast, A.M. Dalen. She was able to get like everything covered for her book.
Yes.
So you just have to know what you're doing, and there are sources out there for that, and want to hear the pros and cons and experience you had.
Yes. Well, and again, there really is a lot that goes into it. So you really do have to plan. You have to really think it out, and you have to have your samples. So speaking of samples, if you go on my Instagram or Facebook, you can find the sample of my audiobook. I paid to have the voice actor actually do a sample so that I had something for people who want to have the books, they want to back this book, they could actually hear what it was going to sound like. So it's important before you start a Kickstarter to invest in some samples, whether it's what the formatting might look like, or what the cover art might look like, or what illustrations that you're going to have those samples lined up so that you are actually showing people what they're going to get for backing you, what the final product, even if it hasn't been completed yet, is potentially going to look like, so they have a good idea. And that's the first step to a Kickstarter, is exactly what Stephanie's done, is go on Kickstarter and start backing some projects. Go on there, find your favorite fantasy authors, people who are writing books that you love to read, people who have really good looking campaigns, and start backing them. Most of these projects, you can back them for $1 if you just want to, support them. But you could also most campaigns, usually for $10 or $15. Giving that amount to back them means that you get the product, which is a deal. Like you're getting the audiobook, or you're getting the paperback, or whatever it is that is being created. You're going to be the first to get this product, and you're not even having to give that much. So the first thing that you should do as someone who wants to do a Kickstarter is start doing your research by looking at other authors that are writing books just like yours. And you want to find projects that were successful.
Can you
So
just do a search like YA fantasy Arthurian legend? Do you have to be that specific, or can you just...
it's more like YA fantasy, and then
Okay.
look at what comes up, and you're going to see projects that have been completed. You're going to see ones that are active and some that are coming soon. You want to look at the ones that are completed first.
Okay.
So go look at those projects, and you want to look at the ones that were successful. They are going to be your template.
Makes sense.
So you find one that was successful, and you're going to basically copy their entire structure, and just using Canva. I've talked about Canva a lot. Stephanie's talked about Canva a lot. As an indie author, you should know how to use Canva, because this is how you're going to develop your entire campaign. And this is what's really time consuming. So you're taking all of your samples, you're taking all of your things, and you're creating something that's visually stunning to look at for the people who are going to be looking at your campaign. And the next step that I've learned, and this is something I did not do. So I did a lot of things right. So I went ahead and I looked at some successful campaigns. I went ahead and I copied them, used that template as how I wanted to visually make my campaign. And I'll say my campaign was stunning. Like, it looked good. It looked
Glorious. Oh man, it was beautiful.
There were only 2 mistakes that I made, and they were things that I couldn't have learned just by researching. And I'll tell you more about that later. But the first step is doing your research, getting some followers, not followers, but following some people, looking at their campaigns, starting to make a note of what their campaigns look like, and what kind of template is going to work for yours based off the ones that were successful. And what you'll notice is most of the successful campaigns had a low budget, but they exceeded it by like 300, 400, 500%.
Wow.
So that was something that I had missed. My thought was, when I was developing a campaign, is that I needed to raise like $5,000 to hire my voice actor. So I had to at least make that amount of money. And so that is where I set my campaign at. That was my first mistake. So I made this beautiful, stunning campaign. I had done that all right, but I set my price where I needed to make, that was my goal, what I needed to reach. And that was my first mistake,
Huh.
especially for audiobook. And that was the other
Okay.
mistake. So I only made 2 mistakes really on my campaign. And for those of you who want to go on Kickstarter, you can actually find my campaign. If you look up Angela R. Hughes on Kickstarter, you'll find my campaign. You can look at it. You can even use it as a template. I've been told my Kickstarter looks great by
It
a lot
did.
of the people who know what they're doing on Kickstarter. But I set my goal too high, and I advertised audiobook instead of my actual hardback book.
Huh.
People do not want to invest in audio. It's not a real reward. They don't feel like that's something that's going to make you a whole lot of money. And so what does someone like me do, though? I've already got my books published
Mm-hmm.
and I want to raise money for my audiobook. And that's okay. All I need to do, so I just need to I need to change my goal. And I need to change the campaign towards people getting the reward of my hardback and my paperback book with the audiobook attached to it. So even though I already had these all published, I can still have that as a part of my reward and more of the aim and the goal of my campaign with the audiobook attached to it. That's what we're actually raising the money for. But people know that they're going to be getting these.
Ah, okay.
So those are the things that I needed to change. How did I find out all of this information? And that was the whole road that I had to go down. And I found out if I want to raise $5,000, I need to set my campaign at $500 or $400. And I went, what? How am I going to make
Yeah.
that money?
I'm
And
I'm curious. I don't understand the logic.
yes,
Yes.
and I'm going to tell you who I got this information from here in just a minute. But where I've been learning a lot of this information again through the amazing community Kickstarter, which is fantastic. There are so many amazing authors on Kickstarter. It opened a whole nother world of author friends and people who want to buddy up and go with you in the whole publishing process. I was overwhelmed by love.
Oh, that's
Kickstarter.
awesome.
It really was people who wanted to help make my campaign successful, because if my campaign is successful, it opens the door for their campaign to be successful. So there really is this, I need to help you because I need Kickstarter to keep this open for fiction authors and keep it a thing that now consumers are coming on to get books. So they want you to do well. They want you to keep the excellence level high. So if people think that that's not reachable, if they're like, oh, $5,000, that will never make us our money back, even though they're not going to be getting any money back, people are thinking of Kickstarter that way. And so you have to set it at a reachable goal. And when it's reachable, people go, I'm going to give to that. We're going to reach that goal, and people will give, and it will go beyond your goal because they feel like your campaign is attainable.
Got it.
So
And
it's kind of it kind of does something to their brain.
right. And
Yeah.
then with the Kickstarter, when certain goals are reached, is that where the stretch goals happen? Where if you reach the
Yes.
first goal, then there's like an extra perk people
Yes.
get that have already pledged to or paid like pledge for a reward, like, oh, we reached our first goal. So all of those who have pledged get this particular perk.
Yes, and stretch goals are really, really important. It took me a while to kind of understand what a stretch goal was. I'm like, is this money we're making beyond the $5,000 I had my campaign, or is this like within the midst? It is in the midst of while the money is being raised, these goals that kind of motivate people to keep on giving, even if your goal has been reached. Because now this opens up the potential to not just getting one book, audiobook, but more, and really having your stretch goals a reward. So like, for example, my stretch goals were you could get a Q&A with the author. The second one was, I have another book that's currently publishing. You'll be the first to get that ebook before it's released. And then the next one was a short story that's exclusive that they could get from the original series. And then the final stretch goal was that, hey, we've now unlocked the next book to start getting produced. So stretch goals are really important because it gives those that are backing a reason to want to keep giving, to give more, and to be excited about the campaign going beyond your original goal. So those are really, really very important. And I think one of the very first steps, first finding your template, building it, making it beautiful, making sure all of your rewards, your add-ons, your stretch goals are really lined up. They're really solid. And then you do a pre-launch. I didn't do pre-launch. I kind
Okay.
of did like 3 or 4 days before because I didn't really know that's something I could do. Like I was just doing this for the first time. But you want to do a good like 1 or 2 week campaign, letting people know that this is coming and they can jump on the bandwagon. They can even be reading about it and be ready when it does release. And during this time of pre-release, This is where now you're following other people. You're starting to
Ah,
mix it
okay.
up. You're starting to let people know you're there, your campaign is coming. And I actually met a really cool author human um, at the very beginning of my campaign. And I probably would have met the same person had it been just during the pre-launch. But he actually emailed me and said, hey, our campaigns are really similar. Do you
Mm.
want to buddy up? He's like, I'll follow your newsletter, you follow mine, and we'll share each other's stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and then we'll back each other. And I was like, I looked at his campaign. I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go. And I started noticing that this was a really good technique. So finding other people that are doing just the same thing you're doing, that you're like, I love your project. Do you want to buddy up? And not using salesy language. This is like really down to earth, like, hey, I'm letting you know that we could be helping each other out. And one of the things that I did for him and then he did for me was in my newsletter, I actually did a little ad for his Kickstarter.
I saw that.
Yeah, and he's doing one for me. And I think this is a really nice way to support other people's Kickstarters and even just make author friends and see other people are making powerful stories come to life. So that was a cool thing, again, that I didn't know previous to doing my Kickstarter. So these are active things that you could be doing, finding other people's campaigns, letting them know, hey, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine.
So that means like in your newsletter, if you're going to be doing a pre-launch, you can
Yeah.
send that out with a link because your Kickstarter, you've already started, you haven't started the campaign, but you have the template up. Right.
Yes.
So that means if you do a pre-launch, you could put it in your newsletter and people could follow it. And then
Yes.
that means they'll get email updates, right?
Yep.
Probably when it launches.
Yep.
I do believe I got those when I was following A.M. Dalen's
Yes.
Kickstarter. So then she did also a like special 2-day like early sale. So if
Yes.
you pledged in the first 2 days of the Kickstarter starting, you got like a discount, like maybe
Yeah.
it was like $5, $10 discount off of some of the packages. It's like that
Yes.
was incentive too. Like for me, I was like,
Yes.
yep, I'll take advantage of
Yeah.
that little perk.
Yes, and those things motivate people. So this is all in the pre-launch. And so I was starting my launch without any followers. But AM Dallin, for as an example, she might have started hers with 22 followers. People who were already ready to
Hmm.
back her the moment her campaign went live. And I think that's really important. This should not be skipped. Do not skip this step. You want to have followers before you launch. And there might
Okay.
be people following you as an author, but it's not the same as necessarily following your campaign. So you want to have people following your campaign as well as following you as an author on Kickstarter. And this is kind of the magic, giving yourself enough time, even if it's a month, to be letting people know on Instagram and Facebook that you're up and live, on your newsletter that you're up. You can check out the campaign. It's not live yet, but you can check it out. You can look at it, see where you want to maybe back the project. It just kind of gears things up properly and gets things ready to really rev up when you do start the campaign. So really thinking that out and taking the time to do that is really important. And again, that was a step that I totally skipped because I didn't realize how important it was to try to get some followers. And here's the thing too, is we're thinking of our friends and our family when we're thinking of people backing us.
Hmm.
If you create your campaign well on Kickstarter, your friends and family are the icing on the top. If you do this well, you're going to have a nation of fiction authors and readers who want to see your project come to life and will back you. And those are the people you want to have backing you. And if you have it set up right, that's how you're going to get that support. It's not a GoFundMe. This is a totally different thing. And so you're actually wanting to get Kickstarter. People on Kickstarter to be like, I like your project. Yep, we're doing this. And there are people, really high up people, we were talking about like Brian Sanderson, who are using Kickstarter because it's a good fan,
Yes.
Kickstarter, now they're getting all these special perks they can't get anywhere else.
Special editions of books too
Yep.
that they're
Yes.
making outside like the publishing
Yes.
company. So yeah.
So if you can imagine this, you've got people like Brian Sanderson on Kickstarter. Why would he need to be raising money? Well, because the fans love it. So now if you're looking at Kickstarters, this is the place where fans are. This is where
Okay.
people are wanting to get those special limited
goodies.
edition, things that they're not going to get anywhere else, or they're going to get before anybody else. One of my add-ons, I have these hero cards that I have 2 hero cards and a villain card that I've created for my Kickstarter, and nobody else is going to get them. These are special for people who are going to be coming on to back my campaign. So there's things like that people are like, oh, I want that, or I want the first pre-release, or I'm going to get this special art piece because I backed this project. And if you're a fan, that's a huge perk. So that is all really important to think about. 2 resources. If you're going to start a Kickstarter, before you even begin, you need to join a Facebook group. It is called Kickstarter for Authors. There is so much good information. And when your campaign is live, they will actually let you post about your campaign for that month that it's running.
That's awesome.
It's just super awesome. And it is also where I found this fantastic free course. It is called Kickstarter Best Practices for Fiction Authors. And this is what changed everything for my campaign. So all the things that I thought I'd known, all of the research, all of the YouTube videos that I had watched, all of a sudden became like not important. I went, whoa, I don't know anything. I haven't learned the essentials. I thought I just needed a good template, get it up there, get it going. No, I had missed so much. So this free course, it's free, is led by Dean Wesley Smith. And you may or may not know his name, but he has sold like 23 million copies of his books. He's famous in Hollywood and video games, but his name sometimes, his published name is sometimes different. But he is the Kickstarter king. And if you have read any Final Fantasy gaming novels, then you have probably read some of this author's books.
Oh my.
Yes. And
big Final Fantasy fan, but I don't think I've read any of the books.
Yes, so he does have those. He's the author of many of those books, and he also has done some stuff in Hollywood. Anyway, he started something years ago. If you look at this course, they've kept it updated, but it's older. But he is already a successful author, so he's like, why would I be getting into Kickstarters? And now he's done like 40 plus Kickstarters. He's like, I know how to do this because fans love it so much. And he has also worked with Brian Sanderson. And so he knows what he's talking about. And in the course, if you sign up for the course, you actually get to email him directly. And this is how I found out everything that was wrong with my Kickstarter. I emailed him and I said, hey, I started this Kickstarter. Here, take a look at it. And he emailed me back the same day.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, your Kickstarter is beautiful, which was really encouraging to me. He's like, you have done just about everything right, except 2 essential things. And because you did those 2 things wrong, you will not get any funding. And he says, you fix these things, you put it back on live, you're going to get a lot of support. You'll probably well beyond meet your goal, which he was telling me, I'm going to, like I was talking earlier, he's like, you need to set it like $400. I don't care if you need to reach 5,000, you'll reach 5,000 because you set it at 400. You won't get anything if you set it. And so that was really helpful. I even emailed him back. I thanked him. I followed his advice. His advice was stop your Kickstarter now. Start over in a couple months. And I'm like, okay. And that's a lesson for all of us. Learn how to take hard critiques or critiques that are meant to help you, because it's better to stop, install, or redo than it is to be so to need to just do it or just forge ahead. It's better to take people's advice who've been there and done that, and who are
experts and they've learned and they know the tricks. And
and he even let me know, he said, hey, when you get everything up and ready to go, let me look at your pre-launch. He's like, let me look at it. And he's like, and I will help you make sure everything's ready to go. And he's like, you're totally going to reach your goal. You don't even need to worry about it. And I was like, well, that's a vote of confidence. But he's been doing this long enough that he knows what to look for. And I think what did pay off for my campaign, and I think is super important, is that I did do my template right. I did do my research and I did an excellent job making sure that it was appealing and honest for my audience.
Mm.
So they actually knew what they were getting. And so now I'm just having to change a few things. And it's amazing though how those few things really are going to make a huge impact, a huge difference. So, doing the pre-launch, changing the ask price, and making it more about my books than my audiobook, even though that is what we are going to be producing. And it's not being dishonest, because everyone who is giving
No,
is going to be getting these
they're
books.
getting it.
This is all a part of it. So,
Well,
yeah,
and the
just,
great thing is too, like for a family or a couple, you might have like a spouse who only reads the physical, but like my husband loves audio and he will
yeah,
just listen to books on audio. So
yeah,
someone could get one tier reward and it's like, we get both.
yes,
So, everybody wins that way.
yes, yes. Yep. And there's having everything lined up. Again, go check out my campaign. You need to have your shipping costs on there. You need to have, your ad copy. Ad copy is how you have everything written and lined out. Don't let it be too wordy. Let it be straight to the point. I didn't get as much critique on my ad copy, but even so, I'm going to be narrowing it down even further than I already do, just to make sure it's really easy for people to look at my campaign and know exactly what it is they're getting and what they're backing. And now that I have started doing Kickstarter, Stephanie and I were just talking about this. I'm excited to even potentially start using this for the publishing of my books, because I've
Mhm.
got another book coming. It's like we're in the editing process right now. Like we're there. And I'm like, man, maybe I could really make this book more than what I
Yes.
was
Yes.
imagining, because I could get people who've already familiar with me on Kickstarter to want to back that project too. And again, it's more about giving your fans what they know and love. You wonder where these people have the money to do these hardbacks with the gold foil and the special edition copies where the pages have been painted on and are printed, have special print on them, and just all of the bells and whistles. It's Kickstarter. This is where
Mm.
people are getting all of these amazing fan edition copies done. And they're eager and ready for you to get on there and give them the opportunity to back your project.
Awesome. Man, this is so helpful. I feel like I learned a ton.
Yeah, it's worth it to be able to share. I mean, I think both Stephanie and I feel this way. We're both, indie authors. We are getting our books out there and we're publishing them. But whenever we find a resource of something that's really going to help us elevate our readership or help more people find our books, and find more people who love what we're doing, it's worth the time and effort to go down that road. And this is one of those roads that I didn't know was going to have such an impact on my authoring. And I definitely am glad I started the process, even though I had to stop. And we're going to start again. It was worth all the time that I had spent doing it the first time to learn
Mhm.
what I've learned now. So thanks for joining us on the Ink Pages. We love that you are watching our episodes and that you are getting stuff from it. We've got some awesome author interviews coming up here really, really soon. There's 3 that are locked and loaded, just ready to go. We're really excited for those ones. And we have so many more. Editor's Corner, Buddy Reads. If you have a book that you would like us to read, please go onto the Ink Pages link tree and go ahead and fill out that application. Send us your ebook and we will let you know if we will read your book and review it on our show. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, and share out our episodes, and we'll see you next time.